Well, it seems everywhere you go these days where there's some sort of transaction involved, there is a tip jar staring back at you or a tip screen on that little iPad thing at the register. Finance professor Dan Roccato joins us live with some tips on tipping this morning. Dan, how are you doing?
I'll take a tip, Case. How are you?
Okay, doing well. So how do consumers feel about it? I know how I feel about it. I understand tipping a waiter who's serving you, but I just don't get the concept of tipping somebody who's just taking your money. I just don't get it.
You're not alone, brother. It seems like we are tipped out. 2/3 of us say that we've got tip fatigue. We've got a negative view of tipping. And I think what's really driving it, Case, in large part, is this new phenomena of contactless tipping, right? You're in line, you get your cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and they turn the iPad around to you with a suggested tip amount that you just touch the iPad. I think that's what's really starting to grate on consumers.
Yeah. So who should we be tipping then?
Well, I like what you said at the beginning. We tip for good service, Casey, and traditionally that would be, restaurant servers who do a very good job of tipping us somewhere between 15 and 20% at sit-down restaurants, maybe 10% for delivery or takeout. But, beyond that, we really do start to stretch the bounds of this thing. The other day I was shipping a package, and at the store I was shipping the package, there was a tip jar, and I thought that was a little bit too far, right? So remember this, Case, it's okay to say no.
Yeah, and you talked about this a little bit just there, but when we find the appropriate person to tip, how much?
Yeah.
How much?
Well, I like to go with this rule. Personal service providers, right, for, everything from a mani-pedi to your hairdo. Well, not my hairdo, but yours, Casey.
Right.
Restaurant servers, bartenders, the valet, the Uber driver, all fine, right? And anywhere, say, between 10%, 20% for those folks. But I'm a big believer in you don't tip for fast food. Even though almost 50% of fast food outlets now have a tip jar, doesn't mean you have to do it.
Yeah. And we've talked to an etiquette expert about this before, and I don't know if you have any thoughts on this or not, but she says that the employees are often equally as uncomfortable. They may not know what's happening, and they're like, I don't know if I should tell them to tip. I don't know.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think what studies have shown is that you and I often do it out of guilt.
Yes.
That's not good, right? We should tip for good service, not for guilt.
Right. Anything else we need to know about this, about tipping in general?
Yeah, so the one thing I would say is it's very easy at that moment of, you're at the register, you're checking out, to basically just give in, almost feeling like you're paying for a ransom, and do the tip. So think of it in advance before you go through the line. Say, I'm conscientiously not going to give a tip for shipping my package, right? So I think consumers need to think a little bit more appropriately, a little bit more aggressively, assertively, before they get that iPad put in their face.
Right. There you go. And I can speak from experience. I've blown a lot of money, various dollars here and there, guilt tipping. So don't do that. I'm glad that you agree.
Yep. Tips for the professor. Thanks, Case.
There you go. Dan Roccato, thank you so much.